Alright, Nerd Roulette. As you know, I collect antique photographs. So I'm going to go through some of those now. And this is going to be in one take because I filmed an intricate video and all of my footage somehow got permanently deleted. So, here's this. The twist that I didn't tell you about is that I actually specifically am interested in Victorian post-mortem photos. It was very common back in the mid-1800s to even up to the turn of the century, even up to like 1910, to take a photograph of someone after they were deceased because photography was so expensive and they wanted to capture a person's image if an image didn't exist. So I'm going to go through some of my pieces, and some of them are normal photos and some of them are post-mortem, and if you have a hunch that any of them are post-mortem, you can leave that in the comments. This first piece I found sort of interesting. It's a tintype. Here we have an ambrotype of a woman from around here. I have some documentation about this photo. The case is not in great shape, but it does exist. A pair of twins that you saw in last video. Yet another ambrotype. A cabinet print on albumen, and yet another cabinet print on albumen. This I am not going to take out of the plastic baggie because it is a daguerreotype and it may oxidize if I take it out of this. Here we have a CDV on albumen. This photo is actually somewhat modern, but I found it absolutely fascinating. This guy was a Mason and this is his funeral. And it's really quite elaborate. This is a daguerreotype. This one actually is alive, but it was very common because of how long the exposures were for daguerreotypes for young children who aren't able to stay still to look deceased even when they weren't. But I have documentation on this photo that indicates that that child lived until 1910. I am planning on visiting the portrait studio where this was taken on my bike tour that's coming up. This is a blind man from Utica, New York. I found that photo interesting. And here is something that you have probably never seen before. This is actually not a post-mortem artifact, but most people think it is. In the Victorian era, it was really common for people to save hair from brushes and weave things out of them. And you would end up with pieces typically not quite as elaborate as this, but this is made out of probably the hair from an entire family over the course of probably a year, and it's hand woven. And it was a really common thing for ladies to do in winter. And a lot of people are creeped out by these, but there's also a huge market for them in collecting because they are really fascinating. And so that pretty much is my video for this week. Kind of a creepy collection. I figured I would share it with you guys. Sorry that there is no editing, and sorry that I'm rambling horribly, but that's what happens when I'm uncut. And I will see you next week, and Roberto, I will see you tomorrow.